another episode of the Recurring Value Podcast, where every week we shine a light on what really means have post-sale success, because recurring revenue only comes when we create recurring value. On this podcast, we'll have real conversations with people on the front lines of post-sale success. We'll hear stories from customer success and product team leaders, founders, and industry experts about the impact and value that they bring to users. Our goal is to explore what it takes to create real, repeatable value for customers. If you have questions or topics, email us at success@recurringvalueproductions or recurringvalue.productions to join the conversation. Let's dive into the world of post-sales success together. I'm your host, Brett Sears, CEO and co-founder of AdoptIQ. At AdoptIQ, we recognize the B2B SaaS shouldn't operate in a transactional sales model where the dollars come at the end. In reality, the recurring revenue model, we need as much, if not more, dynamic support post-sale. While the industry often focuses heavily on pre-sales activities, true success in B2B SaaS hinges on continuous value delivery. By empowering the post-sale success team, we ensure users achieve their desired outcomes, drive customer success, and foster recurring revenue. That's why we're doing this podcast, to learn from the smartest people in this space. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome Alex Bakula-Davis to the Recurring Value Podcast. Alex is a vice president of customer success at Clearstory, a company dedicated to helping construction teams focus on their core work by efficiently managing project TM tags and change orders. With an MBA emphasizing in market and entrepreneurship, Alex has built a reputation as a customer and data-driven leader. Throughout his career, Alex has consistently increased retention and adoption rates, achieving impressive results at each stop in his journey. He has a deep understanding of customer success, coupled with his hands-on experience of scaling and optimizing CS teams. Makes him a valuable guest. He's also shared his insights through blogs and various projects, demonstrating his commitment to the growth and development of the CS community. I'm excited to do a deep dive into Alex's journey, his approach to post-sale success, and the strategies he employs to drive customer adoption and growth. So welcome, Alex.
Thank you. I could get used to people introducing me every day. I would like to start my day with one of those every day. Fantastic.
How's your day going? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's great. Sun is shining. Work is moving. I can't complain.
It's awesome. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you being here. And I really want to let everyone get to know you first. Can you tell me a little bit, how did you end up at Clearstory as a VP of customer success and sort of that journey?
Yeah. So I'll take a couple steps back. So I got into tech and started in tech because I had no clue what I wanted to do after I graduated college. And I decided, an MBA is a good way to put off having to make that decision and get a job. So I moved up to San Francisco to get my MBA, and then promptly got a job. And cool story, it came from emailing Mark Cuban, and he introduced me to one of his portfolio companies. No experience, no idea what I was doing. I quickly found out I was not good at sales, but customer success really fit my skill set and mentality a lot more. So I worked at a couple different startups, most recently in SaaS, and developed my skills around customer success and company sizes anywhere from like pre-revenue up to about 30 million in ARR. And along the journey, I got introduced to the founder of Clearstory because I had worked with his sister, and it was an early stage company, which I decided I was not going to work at anymore. But when I talked to him and I really learned about the problem the tool was solving and how much value it provided, I got hooked. And so I joined the company, and since then have been building out and managing the customer success team and our post-sales strategy.
Founder vision can be contagious, huh?
It was. Yep. Got me hooked, and I'm still hooked.
It's what they always say is like, that's the job, is recruiting and building a team, right? In terms of that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I want to go down to this, but I want to circle back at some point to the Mark Cuban email, because that was going on last couple months about on LinkedIn, him talking about a lot of his work through that. So it's funny that you sort of had that experience. So what do you think the role of customer success, since you're building this, it's an early stage company and sort of growing, right? It's probably a lot of different hats, but what do you think the role of the success team plays for users to get the value out of Clearstory and how you're able to do it? So maybe who's your user base and sort of where is that value that your team works with?
Yeah. So I'll start first by saying that like the purpose of customer success, I think, changes as companies grow from earlier stages to later stages. Specifically for Clearstory, we're at a point, I think, where we've gained or are about to gain product market fit. We're starting to grow a lot more. We're not really in that early stage anymore. So whereas previously at small companies, customer success's purpose to me is to find product market fit, to like understand users and if our product solves it and what they could deliver better. As you start to grow, to me, customer success becomes a revenue driver, a feedback mechanism, as well as a lever for additional growth of network effect and customer referrals and things like that. So I think we're at the point where for the business, customer success is a revenue contribution department. For our users, the way we're doing that, or the purpose of us for end users to do that is we need to understand what they're trying to achieve from the product, like what's going to be the impact for the end users, not just the business, but the actual people, and figure out a way to deliver that to them through training, through education. So I think we're just a mechanism to understand those needs and deliver the impact of those needs.
Awesome. Because you've been at a variety of different sort of companies. Do you find the product and the type of user changes how the support and customer success sort of goes and sort of where those value props are? Or is it pretty much everyone's got the same sort of emotional pain points? We go in and solve the delivery, and it's sort of one approach through different mechanisms.
My style, I think, which is not to sound bad, is more rudimentary of it's one approach through different mechanisms, because I work typically in like earlier stage where I think either a one size fits all or one size fits many is a better approach than trying to create this really dialed in perfected strategy. I think as you get bigger, you have the ability to do that. So I would say that it is when I deploy a customer success strategy, it looks very similar, but the mechanisms for how we do it might be different. So I might say, oh, in this case, instead of us doing live trainings, we've understood that a video series is a better mechanism for delivering this information. Or, hey, we've realized that in-app guides are going to have a lot more impact than product videos on the website. But the kind of philosophy and strategy behind it is similar, at least in the ways I've done it before. I think that's because I know one thing well, and I probably should branch out more. But
no, no, it's always interesting to me as when I talk to folks that haven't spent a lot of time sort of post sale, is we have this term customer success, and that can be interchanged with onboarding and support and success. And you get in to talk to success people, and they're very clear. They're like, this is my role. But it feels like the industry as a whole sort of doesn't have the same level of clarity of each of the stages, right? That's one of the reasons we're building what we are, is there needs to be the same level of sort of complex support post sale as there is pre. How do you see as a customer success working with the onboarding roles and the support roles, and then sort of the vision and the success roles, because they're all sort of driving the same long-term revenue outcome, but they've got very different responsibilities and measurables?
yes, great question. And a lot of, I think this sounds like an oversimplification, but like to me, it all just boils down to your whole purpose is you understand the customer's problem, you understand what a solution looks like with your product or service, and you understand the impact of that. And that's customer success. Like that should be central to everything. And it sounds so simple. From that, I also think that you then say, all right, well, if that's what we're trying to do, every customer is going to go through the kind of these phases. They're going to be in the onboarding phase. Everyone's got to, get access to the software, figure out how they're going to use it. So you have these phases. And if every customer is going to go through those, they're going to have different needs in each phase. And that's going to be addressed by different teams, whether it's support, whether it's onboarding, whether it's CSMs, whether it's technical account managers, whatever you want to call it. So when I approach like customer success strategy, I'm trying to solve the customer's needs and understand their impacts. And I'm trying to understand what are the different phases and what does it look like when those phases go well and those phases go poorly. And what do we do to make sure that if they're going, like we keep them going well, or we keep them back on track if they're going poorly. And then that gives me kind of this map of, here's what we're trying to do, here's where things might go wrong, and here's how each team can contribute to that. And then that becomes really clear, I think, for each team of, okay, if I'm support, there's going to be different onboarding challenges from a support perspective for the customers in onboarding. Or if it's someone who's been around for a long time, they're going to start to up-level their use and get into integrations and additional features. There's going to be other needs. So I don't know if that answered the question, but that's kind of like my approach to, okay, we need to figure out like how to create a strategy that's across a bunch of different customers, a bunch of different phases, and a bunch of different teams, support, onboarding, etc.
I always want to give somebody like a hint. If we can cut someone who's either going into CS or sort of developing, or a founder that's starting to build their thing, their project. So I always want to like collapse 10 years into a couple sentences. And so I always put people on the spot on this. Is there a secret? Is there a hack? Is there a life thing that you're like, oh, I learned this one thing when it comes to onboarding or transition that I implement when I take over a team? It's like the first drill that I do that no one else does, but it's a game changer. Is there anything that you could collapse a decade on somebody for?
I'll give one that just popped in my head that isn't the end all be all. But one thing I've really found is that you can jump so many levels with a customer if you have the right contact on their side. If you have the right executive sponsor who is willing to partner with you, that really is like what drives things forward a lot more than not. Like I just found that having the wrong champion or the wrong point of contact, whoever you work with, is more of a hindrance than like all the strategies we can implement. If we don't have the right person to work with, we could be the best, CS team in the world, but we need them to work with us with our product and solution. So I spend a lot of time early on making sure that we're connecting with the right people on the customer side so that we can be effective.
Now, I'm going to follow up on that just quick. Like, does that happen at the handoff where the account exec says, okay, here's who I've been working with, here's who they think you should be working with, and at that point you either sort of do that or start going through the organization to find the one that you need?
Yes. One of the hills I die on is nail the handoffs. Like that's to me one of the most critical things in customer success. After understanding, the desired outcomes and impacts for a customer, is all right, you have all these handoffs that are going to occur, the biggest one between sales and customer success, but you also have like product and customer success, support and CSMs, that kind of stuff. You have to nail the handoffs. And a huge part of that is what you just said is, okay, who are the people we're working with? And who is the people we should be working with if those aren't the right ones?
One last question on this, because there's so much changing. There's been, from 21, 22, there's all this money. CS really blew up, and then construction. What do you see the role of the CS, this post-sales success team, right? And when I think the success team, I don't just think CS. I really think from onboarding, support, CS, product, and renewal. Like, again, recurring revenue requires recurring value. We have to have a product and team that delivers it from start to end. How do you see that after that handoff changing over the next 5 years? Like, do you think it stays the same? Do you think it becomes more sophisticated, more intense, less?
Yeah, it's a good question that I don't know that I have or I've thought about a lot, because I've seen investors start to be more focused on profitability over growth. Like, rewind 5-10 years, at least for companies that had, venture-backed companies or a lot of tech companies, it was like, hey, we got to grow at all costs. So as that, investors have started to look more at profitability and less on growth, I think some people will react, some companies, some leaders will react by looking at CS as a place to reduce costs, while others will look at it as a place to drive more revenue. So I think it's really dependent on how people react to that. But my advice, I would say to CS leaders, is understand how you drive impact revenue and what you can do to increase that. Because in those situations where leaders or CEOs have the right mindset around it, I think you're going to see better alignment between product and customer success, which personally I've always struggled with. Like, it should make sense, but it doesn't always work that way. So I see maybe more integration between those two teams. And that I'd say as far as like how how customer success gets looked at is very company dependent. But for the companies that I will look to, continue working at or join later, that's one of my first questions is like, what do you think customer success does for a business? And if it's, hey, you're going to help us, increase revenue and drive expansion and convert more, like that's the answer I want to look for.
Well, that's why we're doing this. I would believe that the same thing, alignment's there. One last question. If you were to give advice to your CEO or any CEO out there about the role of this post-sale success team and what it can do, like a one sentence, like piece of advice, what would that be?
I'm going to sound like a broken record, but post-sales can be a huge driver of revenue if you invest in it and incentivize it correctly, especially as you grow. Early on, sales is what drives a lot of growth, but you hit a tipping point where retention, gross and net retention becomes your biggest driver, and you need to have already invested or had the right mindset before that point, because it's really hard to change it later.
Very, very good. All right, one last section, just sort of wrapping up, and we think about it as the plug. Sort of telling the story of what's going on. Is there anything, where can people find you? What's sort of the mission? What are the projects that you're working on, whether on the side or with Clearstory? Anything you want to share so people can get to know a little bit more about you?
Yeah, I'm terrible at self-promotion and plugs. I'm purposely not online as much as I used to be. I used to blog and have a customer success newsletter and be on Twitter and LinkedIn. But I have consciously dialed back, which I'm happy about. Having said that, you can still find me. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. I think it's at Alex B. Davis. But I love talking about post-sales. So my DMs are wide open. I'm happy to help anyone in any way, bounce ideas off, give you terrible opinions about customer success. So you can always find me, though I'm not as proactive as I used to be.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate it. And we'll put everything in the notes, and so you'll be able to find Alex through that. One of the things, right? One of the things is for me, right, to be able to, we're building this, the Recurring Value Podcast. Please subscribe, go to your favorite podcast sites, give 5-star reviews, whatever you can. If you have any questions or insights, again, success@recurringvalue.productions. We'd love to hear from you. We're really excited about being able to build this out and sort of make an impact and add to the community. So Alex, thank you so much for being a part of this. And we're really excited. We'll see everybody soon.
All right.